in comparison to our experiences as being brought up as Muslims, in the Muslim community, trying our best to establish Dar Islam, loving Allah and His Rasul, so Islam properly.
Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
They think they missed out on something. They think that they missed out on the regular African American culture experience, and they just allow Shaitan to make them feel like they're less than everybody else because they had the same social experience growing up as Muslims. It's a deep test, but it's a test for everybody, and it's a test for the elders, and making sure that we stay steadfast and try to be as good an example as possible, so that one day that they'll possibly see. I mean, because when I was 21, 22, I was starting my family and trying to, maintain a job, stay and be at the masjid as much as possible, and I was occupied, having babies and trying to support them and keep my bear. The kids these days, they feel like, they got time to wait for all of that. They just want to try to enjoy have a good time, party, party, party. New sneakers, new this, new that, and that,
That's true, and I feel that it really means a lot when we do not understand our value, if you may. We don't understand where we are in life. We don't know ourselves. I mean, that says a lot. That says a lot. Allah Ta'ala says, "Inna al-insana lafi khusr." And He also says, in reference to that, do not forget yourselves. And in forgetting ourselves, you know what He means. وَلْتَنْظُرْ نَفْسٌ مَا قَدَّمَتْ لِغَدٍ. Think about the day that you're going to meet your Rabb. Whenever the human being does not take that into, consideration on a regular basis, I mean, they've lost. And they're not working towards it. They've lost. I mean, it's that simple. A lot of people do not, they say, yeah, it's true, but then they don't act upon it. And the reality is Allah Ta'ala hates that. He hates it. Isn't it interesting, like if you look in the Quran, you see Allah Ta'ala saying what He hates, those He hates, those He loves, what He loves seeing. That's His character. That's His personality. Those are His traits. And He's given them to us, and we're not doing anything about it. In other words, take it back. Backtrack. Majority of people don't care. They don't care that they don't know. They don't care about what has been done as a result of not knowing. And they don't care about their future. And I'm talking about the Day of Judgment. They don't care about it. Majority of people. Because they haven't seen it. But again, if they were able to see it, something that believers, true believers, live upon. They live upon seeing the Yawm al-Akhirah. And that's why they had the conviction that they had about absolute certainty, with absolute certainty, in the belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah.
And this is important. I mean, if this is not what we're giving to our youth, we are Muslim citizens. We are actually, by taking the Shahada, La ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, we are citizens of Al-Islam. first and foremost. Knowing what it means to live as a Muslim citizen. What is your responsibility? You and I were created for one purpose, that is to worship Allah. We are given oath of allegiance to Allah, Jalla Jalaluhu. And according to the message of the era of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which this era is. What is our responsibility? Just to say it and then go ahead and learn how to make wudu and make salah and then go on to whatever jobs, or then go home or go to the gym, and then just make the rounds about in the mall and in the skating ranges, and is that really his message? Is that really his mission? When Allah Ta'ala reveals to him that in which educates him, that in which disciplines him, that in which raises and grows with him, which is the Quran. And he says to us, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. That's the first ayah. You have another 6,600 and some odd ayahs left. How much of it have you really taken time to analyze? Specifically, what of those surahs came later versus the earlier surahs? In other words, the Makkan and the Madani surahs. This is our history. This is the seerah of the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This was his mission. We are in a Darul Kufr. We are way deep behind enemy lines. When kids go to school, they're not giving salams. They're not giving any type of remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even Muslims meeting up in non-Muslim schools, majority of them, most of them, they're not doing any type of da'wah activity within their own midst, not even the smallest as salams, never mind anything else.
That's true.
So when they come home, they actually bringing that same luggage with them from the schools that they got from non-Muslims. The non-Muslims have taught them their deen. So you have all these crazy things that are happening in the school. These kids are bringing them home to the home base. The base is not strong with the banner of the Shahada. The knowledge, the education is not there. I mean, yes, they have the Quran on the shelf. Yes, they may play it. But do they actually take the time to learn how to apply it, to learn how to recite it, to learn how it actually complements itself? To learn why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam received the revelation and what were the aftermath of that revelation? Have they bothered to do that much? To know the connection between the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to him and us today here in America? What is our duty and responsibility as Muslim citizens? Because without the understanding of what the citizen responsibility is, there can be no development of any state that will spearhead and be in charge of the affairs of Muslims. And for that reason, you have, the different sects all over the place, different societies, different centers. Just divide as much as possible, when that's quite contrary to what the earliest generation actually did. They fought for unity, and here we are fighting to stay divided. Look at the, how can you even turn around and say and think otherwise, that this has to be right, and do absolutely nothing about it? And this is the strangest part, when you know that something is false, and you as a good Samaritan, a good a patriotic duty, at least to say this is wrong, and this is not something that can be substantiated anywhere in the Quran, and that's the end of it.
I guess you have students in school, and some students are what they call A-track, real, they're really focused, in their studies, and you could teach them in traditional methods. And then there's other kids who they're just as intelligent, but you have to find a different way to get them interested in that subject and have them progress. It's like I respect the job that brothers who start they teach and trying to keep their kids and on the right track and giving them the information they need, trying to help them understand the importance of emulating Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam so that we can love Allah properly, worship Allah properly. But these kids, they're like the kids these days are like the students who you have to figure out a new way of teaching them. Because I only know the old way.
Yes, and that's.
I know they have to employ different new methods and stuff, man, to try to.
Yes, well,
get them interested, and it's a difficult task.
And here's the deal, all right, and this is a reality that a lot of people have been trying to hide from the masses forever. All right, when you were younger, growing up as a little boy, what were your means of entertainment? In other words, what kind of games were you used to playing as a boy?
Just.
I mean, were you into these
socialization games? Where we play together. On the street. Football, basketball.
Okay, there's sports, but I'm talking about any type of little toy guns of that nature, those type of games.
Right. Well, we have BB guns and stuff like that.
BB guns, okay. Besides BB guns, what else were there?
Water gun.
Water gun is there, okay?
Yeah.
All right. Let me ask you another question. Did it make you feel like a soldier? Did you have any feeling of soldierly?
Sometimes, I think.
Very good. Okay, we're on the same track. Let me ask you another question. Was it ever your fantasy or ever your ideology or maybe prospect that you would become, somewhere in law enforcement or become part of an army?
Yeah, probably more like the army and stuff.
Okay. So, and by the way, by the way, okay, this is practically every little boy's norm. This is like 99.9, okay? My sons, they want to be the police force. They want to go into the army. Somebody wants to be a firefighter. This is just how, Allah Ta'ala put this in us. And He made it easy for us to use the shahadatu an la ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam to become the best soldiers ever, right? So what they did was they took the soldierly out, made it seem as if it was practically something that was along the way, basically. In other words, they made it seem as if it was insignificant. It was like the least to even consider. But when you take into consideration that the example that the Prophet and his companions, Ridwanullahi alayhim, what they had, that example is what uplifted the entire society. But mind you, that back then they didn't have cars, they did not have ACs, they did not have TV, they did not have technology, this, technology, that. We have all that today. So what happened is that time was harder times, but they had a better example, which made it easier for them. And I like the way Khalid ibn al-Walid explains it somewhere along the Battle of Yarmouk, where he says that as for him and his tribesmen who are now Muslim, they were forced into Islam because they attacked Islam with force, and Islam fought them back, and they saw the force of Islam. They got to experience what it is that they were going up against. And they got to a point where they knew that it had to be much more powerful than them. And they embraced it along with those who had embraced it prior to them. And therefore following and accepting that in which was given to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in its entirety, because they saw both. They saw being an enemy, a direct enemy to him, and then Allah Ta'ala guided them to become his aides and his supporters. Compared to us, who come much later on, we don't get to see that example. But we somehow bring that example to life. And we hold firm to it despite all the distractions. We remain on the truth, the haqq, until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decree comes to pass. So, it's important. I mean, they took that away. You became Muslim, and yes, of course, you have, so many years that you would probably, want to examine. But the bottom line still remains that if you go back to the very early stages of our upbringing, we always had inclination of serving, of being subservient to someone. And that's that's just the norm. Allah Ta'ala put that in every human being, basically. So this is the situation, I think that, in obtaining the authentic, way of Rasul alayhi salam, that in which substantiated by the Quran, that's the only way out of all of this. I think that we have the best opportunity at the best moment, but only Allah Ta'ala knows, what the right circumstances are. He knows all the details. We just, we have feeling.
Do the best we can. Doing the best we can. I think we need to just continue doing the best that we can do, and know that even though it doesn't seem like they're paying attention, the seeds still been planted. And because I know when I was a little kid, my mother and father, they didn't teach me to hang in the street and sell drugs and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I chose to do that. But with all of that, because my family structure, I knew what side the knife was supposed to be on, what side the fork was supposed to be on. I knew I had to have good manners, treat my elders with respect, even though when I became a teenager, I went on the wild side. But when it was lost one of the manifest, it was time for me to get myself together. I still had a basis of good, of universal good morals that I believe aided me and wanted to become a Muslim. And I think the same thing with our kids. Though they're not paying, it seems like they're not paying attention, or they're